Welcome back, class, to Wanted, a Just Right Government. We're going to go over a little bit of the Articles of Confederation real briefly, see what you got or remember, and how that leads us right into the Constitution that we all have today that set up the United States of America. So you're going to need to open up this document called Wanted, a Just Right Government. Make sure that you've got it with you. It's open. It's got a PDF version or you've got the paper version next to you. So once you've got that, here we go. A Just Right Government. Wanted a government that what? This goes in the upper right hand corner. Fill in those blanks. Take a moment. Pause if you need to. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The first line of the preamble to the Constitution. If we look at this a little closely, you'll understand how this all works. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute a new government. Hopefully you already understand what these means, that to secure these rights are the individual rights that they were just talking about, the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The powers come from the governed, the people who vote and agree to these things. If it is destructive, they can put in a new government, and that is the Constitution that we currently have. The first attempt, these articles ain't working. Use these words to fill in the blanks under that. Go ahead and pause here. All right, you got those in. Hopefully you got them right. Let's see. A confederation is a group of individuals united together for a purpose. This is great, but what did people like about the Articles of Confederation? There were some definite positives to it. The states get to keep their power and their independence that they had lost with the king. Remember, they had lost a lot of their proprietary and royal colonies because the king kept influencing more and more power upon them, and they didn't like that. So they felt that the states needed to keep their power and independence. No government was telling the states what to do. Congress had the power to create a military and protect everyone all together. But, yeah, well, like any writing, there's always something that's wrong. But they had no way to enforce their laws. There was no military force or police force. That meant the states could ignore the laws. If there was no enforcing, then there was no way or no reason to follow them. Congress did not have the power to collect taxes, to pay for the military, so it was all on the states, but who wants to pay for somebody else's military? The articles could only be changed if all of the states agreed. Try getting 13 people to agree on one single restaurant. Now try and get them to agree on one law. Here we go, mini articles of the Confederation, true or false. Answer this as the questions come up on the right-hand side of the screen. I believe it is, anyway. The articles made a president in charge of the country, true or false. The states would still be independent under the articles. The articles were easy to change. True or false? The more people a state had, the more votes they got in Congress. True or false? Congress did not have the power to collect taxes. 6. True or false? Congress could pass laws that the states had to follow. 7. True or false? The Articles of the Confederation created the first American government. Obviously, there were some problems, even though there were some strengths with it, is they realized they wanted a small government, but it was just way too small. They couldn't get anything done, and there were lots of problems like Shays' Rebellion. So there was trouble in paradise. Without a strong government, there were, try and guess, conflicts between the states that the powerless Congress could not control. For example, states made their citizens pay taxes on goods that came from other states. Well, that's not right. States had different needs, just like kids. For example, some states depended on fishing while others grew mostly crops. States had different sizes. Some states had a lot of people, some states had very few. Some were very large, some were very small. People had different opinions, depending if you were northern or southern. Some feared a central government, while others thought a central government was absolutely necessary. This kind of sounds like our country today a little bit. Oh, how things have not changed. There were problems among the states. Another mini quiz. Here we go. True or false? Number 1. Everybody thought the central government should have more power. True or false? True or false? Some people are afraid the state might lose their independence. True or false? Different states had different needs for the government to meet. True or false? The states all got along with each other. The government created by the Articles of Confederation had everything under control between the states. Everything was perfect. So obviously not everything was perfect. The Articles of Confederation had their positives, but there were way too many negatives and weaknesses. But like any good writing, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Because when you stop trying is when you fail. So, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Independence Hall, the same location where the Declaration of Independence was signed, they called together many of the exact same delegates who wrote and signed the Declaration of Independence in the summer of 1787. The purpose originally was just to revise the articles, address the problems, fix what was wrong. The only thing is when they started to fix the things that were wrong, they realized immediately that there was no way to revise them, and it was just better to toss out the old and rewrite. So when you got to rewrite something and the first research paper doesn't go to, where do you go? How do you fix it? Where is your resource? Where's your references? So they went to the references and came up with some principles of the Constitution. What do we really want to get out of this Constitution? What are our main goals? So they came up with an outline. They came up with an outline of 7 ideas, 6 if depending on who you're talking to. But they came up with some very specific things of how they wanted their government to run. First one, or the 7 principles, and some people combine the 2, and I'll go over that. The basic law and government of the United States. They wanted 7 things. They wanted a republicanism. They wanted popular sovereignty. They wanted federalism. They wanted limited government. And some people combine these to get 6 principles: separation of power and checks and balances. Some people kind of lump that together as 1 to call it 6. Some people separate that to call it 7. But they kind of go hand in hand. They're very closely related. And they also wanted individual rights. So we'll talk about those explicitly right here, right now. These things should be on your actual notes, not the actual worksheet, the PDF worksheet. Republicanism, the idea that government is controlled by the people who hold the power and elect representatives, giving those representatives power to make and enforce laws. I'll let that sink in for just a minute. Government's controlled by the people who hold the power and the elected representatives. So those that represent me, I give them the power to make laws for me. Popular sovereignty is the idea that political power rests with the people. You can vote to change or choose to change or get rid of the government if it fails to meet the basic needs of a citizen or citizens in general. Limited government. One of the things they wanted to do is make sure they didn't get another king. They couldn't put all the power of decision making in one place. So they had to limit and keep the legal powers small. So everyone, including all authority figures, must obey the law. There's nobody above it, like the king thought he was above all laws. They wanted checks and balances and separation of power. They wanted each branch of the government to share its power and check the other 2. So that's the checks and balances, and the fact that they were separated, that you couldn't make a law and uphold it at the same time. Somebody else had to take on that responsibility. Somebody else had to enforce it and then double check and then have consequences for breaking those laws. So it literally prevents any branch of government from becoming too powerful because there's a separate process of the lawmaking body. So the executive branch carries out the laws. They're the ones who kind of enforce it. You have the legislative branch that makes the laws. In our government, we have 2 parts to our legislative branch. We call it the House of Reps and the Senate. In Great Britain, it's called the House of Commons. And I lost the other one. I'm sorry. Very similar to our Senate, and that is called Parliament, where we call ours Congress. The judicial branch interprets the laws. That is our Supreme Court. The other piece is federalism. They still needed to keep that states' rights piece together. So that distribution of the power between the federal and the states' rights. So they designed and explicitly said, here are the federal powers, here are the state powers, and some of those powers are shared. So that they have ability to do enough things to fix the weakness of the Constitution or the Articles of Confederation, but yet at the same time keep the states' rights, which was really important because of what we just went through with the Revolutionary War. We needed those provisions for individual rights because during the Revolutionary War, all those times leading up to it, there was a major problem with those issues of individual rights being taken away. They wanted their freedoms. They didn't want it imposed upon by the government. So they wanted to be able to pursue their goals and dreams. That's what the pursuit of happiness is your goals and dreams, not just, oh, I feel like doing this today. It makes me happy, so you have to defend my rights. It's you have to set goals, dream about it, and whatever is necessary for you to achieve those goals and dreams is an individual right, not I just want to take a nap in class. It's my individual right. That's not, it will make me happy. That's not what pursuit of happiness means. Pause here and pull out your notes. Cool. You know me. You know our founding fathers, maybe, not really. But they had to have gotten their ideas from somewhere. You don't sit a stuffy room and just come up with ideas like this right off the top of your head. Most of these things they've been kicked around before. The Constitution was nothing more, it was just plagiarized. The whole document is plagiarized, and not once did they cite their sources. So if a language arts teacher was back then grading this paper, they'd probably fail it because they plagiarized. So let's help them out, and we're going to cite their sources. So, republicanism. Where did they get the ideas of republicanism? They got it from the ancient Greeks in Athens, who came up with the idea of democracy, that the people would be represented by others. Rousseau also had that idea that it is an agreement, and that agreement comes with I agree to give up certain rights to people in power who are going to help me out in that way and take care of my rights. Popular sovereignty was also part of that ancient Greeks and ancient Rome's, where you've got the representative democracy and you can dissolve it if it is not meeting not meeting the needs of the people. Limited government comes from the Magna Carta. It also comes from Rousseau and the Mayflower Compact. Checks and balances, those ideas and the separation of power came out of Montesquieu along with the Magna Carta, which also divided power between the king and parliament. Federalism. Literally anything you can think of that the colonists had an argument with the king of that representation piece, and they're not local control of it, that they wanted the states to have certain rights, could be part of that whole federalism thing. The Articles of Confederation is another good source of that federalism, where they realized that the states had to have power, but so did the federal government. And that's why they added more power to the federal government, because they realized there needed to be some power there, but also power with the states. And that is still playing out even today as I speak, this whole struggle between states' rights and federal rights. Individual rights. Individual rights came out of a whole bunch of different places. The Magna Carta, the Mayflower Compact, English Bill of Rights, Locke, Rousseau, Cato's Letters, Common Sense from Thomas Paine. Everybody talked about what the rights, natural rights of people should be. How should government serve the people, not how people should serve the government. So, we start going. Here are some of the problems they came into. First, we want to separate power, but how are we going to do it? Well, with the Articles of Confederation, it was one vote per state. They realized that wasn't enough and that wasn't going to work. They also needed to separate the powers. So the bigger states proposed that they should get more votes. The Virginia Plan, proposed by James Madison, was huge with this. They wanted it to be bicameral, like Parliament in the House of Commons and the House of Lords. Oh, that's what I was forgetting. In Great Britain, they like that. They like the fact that one balanced the others. Two houses, one elected by the people and the other appointed. The House of Lords is appointed. Okay, so you don't get to, we elect our Senate. The House of Lords is selected by the House of Commons. The first house with the number of people determined by the state population. New Jersey, a smaller state, liked the separation of powers as well. They liked and wanted to protect the smaller states, and they wanted it unicameral. unicameral, meaning that there was only one house, and each state had the same number of votes. So that would keep the large states from making too many, using their power to basically out-talk or silence the smaller states because their votes really wouldn't matter. So this debate goes on and on and on and on and on between the Virginia Plan and the New Jersey Plan, and we get what we call the Great Compromise. The Great Compromise really kind of blended the two to what we have now. We have the three branches of government. They add in the Virginia Plan with the checks and balances. We take the bicameral, which is the two houses, and then we take pieces of the Virginia Plan and the New Jersey Plan together. So because there's two houses, we can have two ways of getting people in there. Because of the republicanism, both are elected. So the Virginia Plan with the big states, more reps via the population, is our House of Representatives because they represent the individual people. The Senate is like the states, Senate S, states S. There will be one representative. I'm sorry, there's the same number of representatives to the Senate. So that's 2 representatives in the Senate for each state. Another major problem, another compromise that they had to agree on, was if we were going to elect people into Congress, into the House of Representatives, based on the number of people in the state, some of the southern states would have way too many representatives based on the white population if the slaves were counted. Let that sink in. The southern states had a very low white population but a very high black slave population and would have gotten more votes if they went by just heads. But the problem is if you should only be represented if you can vote. The slaves were not considered people. They were property. So the Northerners said they shouldn't be counted at all. The Southerners wanted them counted 1 for 1. So they finally agreed to split the Northern and Southern colonies, and came up with the 3/5 compromise, that for every 5 slaves, 3 would be counted. So that would give the Southerners a chance to earn more votes in the national legislature, but at the same time not count them all to get even more power when they weren't considered citizens of the United States at that time. Which also dealt with the slave trade problem. The Northerns were concerned the economy was relying too much on slavery, believed that it was they should get off the bandwagon. Even Great Britain at this time, who was all over the globe, was even reducing its economy based on slaves and freeing lots of them and passing laws. The northern states wanted to proposed a ban on the importation of slavery in the Constitution, and that would make it illegal in the coming years. Southern states weren't willing to give it up. They said we'd totally fall apart and were not willing to budge. Had the northern colonies or states pushed this a little bit more, we might have avoided the Civil War even before our country even started. But as we know, if you got to give some to get some. So they compromised. Slave trade would continue for 20 years, and in 20 years, to allow the southern states to adapt in 1800, it would become illegal to bring in slaves. So they were allowed to ban the importation of slaves into the country, but that did not stop them from being slaves or from being sold into slavery. Go back to your other notes now at this point. Finally, we all agree we have our Constitution. Kinda. We get the preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves, our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. We're going to keep the peace with each other. We're going to protect each other. We're going to make sure everybody's got their life, liberty, pursuit of happiness for now and forever in the US of A. So let's take a look at this real quick. What did they write? There was only 7 parts to it. Part 1, or Article 1, said, here's the legislative branch. It makes laws. We're going to have a House of Rep and the Senate. Article 2 was all about the executive branch and what the executive branch could do and how it carried out its laws. We were going to call that person the president, who is in charge of it. Article 3 was all about Supreme Court, interpreting the laws and making sure that they follow the exact outline in the Constitution of the United States. Each one of them specifically outlines how they can check and balance each other. Article 4, there's 4 parts. First part, states must honor the laws of other states. 2, citizens are entitled the privilege of other states. When you go there, you get the benefits of that state, even if you're not from that state. And criminals will be returned to the state where they did it. You cannot harbor or keep criminals safe from another state. 3, new states can be admitted, but states cannot separate or join together. So the Upper Peninsula cannot separate from Michigan, and North Carolina and South Carolina cannot join. There will be a Republican form of government in each of those states, and they will protect each other from both exterior and interior threats. They tried to eliminate slavery here to make the states all agree that they would eliminate slavery, but in order to get people or the writers to agree to the Constitution, they had to line item that out. Quick quiz. Did the Articles of Confederation require states to treat other states and citizens the same as their own? No, they did not. The Constitution can be changed with an amendment. Article 5. Oh my gosh, we're like almost all the way done with the entire Constitution. Article 5 just says, hey, if we want to change it, Congress has to approve the bill by 2/3, and then it goes to every single state legislative branch, and as long as 3/4 of the state legislatures approve, then it passes. Or if 2/3 of the state legislatures propose it and 3/4 of the state legislatures approve it, then it totally bypasses the federal government. So the states can literally amend the Constitution without anybody in Congress ever doing it. This has never ever happened before except the 21st Amendment, which overrode the 18th Amendment, which the 18th Amendment was prohibition, banning all alcohol sales and consumption in public places. All the states overrode it with the 21st Amendment, literally eliminating the Prohibition Amendment number 18. I'm predicting that this will probably happen with marijuana, just like alcohol was back in the 30s during the Prohibition era. That the states, 2/3 of the states, will propose it 3/4 of the state legislatures will approve it, and they will literally amend our Constitution to make marijuana legal like alcohol is legal. Just predicting. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'll be dead by then. So here's the two ways. You can propose it. 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the states, 3/4 of the state with, well, that should be 2/3 of the state legislature and 3/4 of them of the states. So how can it be changed under the Articles of Confederation? Majority vote or unanimous? Unanimous vote. Article 6, hey, 2 more articles to go and we're almost done. How about that? Constitution is the law of the land. Nothing is higher. Everyone in public office must swear to uphold it. And yeah, all that debt from the Revolutionary War that the states have, yeah, we'll take that on and we'll pay it off. Article 6 is called the Supremacy Clause or the Superman Clause. Nobody is stronger than the Constitution. You can't override it at all, no matter who you are or what you believe in. So, in the Articles of Confederation, did it require the states to follow the laws Congress passed? How well did you remember this? Yes? No? Maybe so? I hope you said no. Article 7, last article in the Constitution. And it said, to approve this, yeah, we don't need all 13 of you, we just need 9 of you. So it goes back to that 2/3 again. So 2/3 of the states had to approve it, and if you didn't like it, too bad, you're joining us anyway. There's no getting out of this. You're part of the convention, all we need is 9 out of 13 to agree to it. Articles of Confederation had to be approved by all states involved. How many states were involved with the Articles of Confederation? I hope you're good. So many people wouldn't ratify the Constitution without guaranteed rights from then on and into the future. So there's a little bit of debate, and we'll talk a little bit about that here. But first, let's talk about the people who actually did all the hard work writing this wonderful piece of literature without any citations. James Madison. James Madison was part of the Virginia Plan. He wanted the bigger, or protect the bigger states, and was all about bicameral stuff. Roger Sherman was from Connecticut. He proposed the Great Compromise with the 2 houses. William Paterson from New Jersey proposed the New Jersey Plan, wanted to protect the smaller states, came up with the judiciary system, and was all about a 1 house, not 2 houses. Alexander Hamilton, yes, the very Hamilton for the plays. He was a supporter of the strong, very strong national government. He was all about supporting the Constitution and came up with the idea of the Bank of the United States. George Washington favored the strong central government, became the first president because of his leadership in this Congress, and he made policies kind of like Hamilton. He liked the strong central government. Edmund Randolph was very outspoken Virginian with Washington. He introduced and defended the Virginia Plan, wanted to make sure that the larger states had more power. Eventually had to compromise, and we'll see a lot of that throughout American history, is that compromise. And then Ben Franklin gave a huge speech of how we should come together. You don't have to be aware of that, but he was very pro-abolition of slavery. He worked very hard to try and get that written into the Constitution, along with Jefferson, but Ben Franklin was very, very adamant, even though he didn't get his way. Had we listened to him, we might have been a little better off without the Civil War. Federalists. were very much in favor of just signing the Constitution as is, saying that things would take care of themselves. The separate branches would protect the individual rights, even though they weren't explicitly written. There must be a separation of the government and the church. They didn't want another Italy. They didn't want another Rome. They didn't want any other place where religion was the main place. They wanted that freedom. They wanted to establish that Constitution no matter what. Ratify it, ratify it, ratify it. No compromise anymore. The government wasn't prospering on the articles. We had to do something immediately, get it done, get it ratified, and move on. Anti-Federalists didn't want to take a chance that there could be another king to step on the individual rights. There had to be a Bill of Rights, like the English Bill of Rights, to protect the people. They were afraid that the government would be too big and step on the rights of people. There was too much power in the president. They wanted to make sure there was enough checks for that, and that there was no dictation or a dictatorship in the country. So they needed to make sure that that was kept from happening. So eventually they struck a deal. The Federalists said, if you ratify the Constitution as is, as soon as the Constitution goes into effect and we put into place the executive, legislative, and judicial branches, we will use Article 5 to amend the Constitution and include those individual rights. So on September 17th, 1787, the Constitution was signed. Between then and June, almost an entire year later, the Anti-Federalists and the Federalists went back and forth, debated and bickered, proposed things to the communities all over the Confederation, and finally came to that agreement that they would be ratified in June of 1788. So during the year of 1788, we went through an election process. There was very few candidates, and eventually Washington was elected with the Electoral College votes. So every person votes, whatever the majority of your state votes, even if that's by one vote, all of the votes for that person who won in that state, each of the representatives in that state casts one vote. And we'll explain a little bit more about the Electoral College later. So Congress literally elects the president, not the people. But the people tell the congressman how to vote. So the Bill of Rights is then approved, or that's worked on, I guess. 12 of them are approved on September 25th, 1789. Enough bickering goes on. By December 15th, 1791, so about a year and a half later, 10 of those rights are approved. And if you're wondering what those two that are missing, I'm going to leave you in suspense, but give you a hint. It is on my cabinet. There is the original Bill of Rights with all 12. If you're interested, and if you can tell me what extra one is, I'll understand that you actually took the time and were curious. That's it for now. I hope this wasn't too long.